and I represent TON event team. And I'm really happy to see all of you on our second workshop, which is held in terms of Hackathon DWF AWS. The topic of this hackathon is DeFi and data analytics. And the total prize pool is about 300K. And we are now in the process of registration teams. So the registration will be closed on the 27th of June. So you have plenty of time to create your own team, to find teammates and participate in our competition. So if you're looking for the teammates, you can write down in the chat of the hackathon your skills and your ideas, and write down a hashtag #MyTeamHackathon. There might be helpful for you to find teammates. Moreover, you can visit our webpage, defihackathon.com, and find out all the information about our mentors, the judging criteria, the prize pool, and the judges. So it was a small advertising moment from me about our hackathon, but let's get back to the business. We are here to have another exciting workshop, and I'm really happy to present you our mentor. He is a DevRel manager in TON Foundation. His name is Mark Hoffman, and he will be diving into the world of FunC smart programming today. So after Mark's speech, we will have a small Q&A session. So if you have any questions, you can write down them below in comments to the post with this broadcasting. And right after the Mark's workshop, I will read all the questions, and probably we will get all the answers. So think that I have told everything I need to tell you, and I would like you to make a round of virtual applause to our speaker and pass the mic to the Mark.
Hey guys. Oh, Daria left so fast. I wanted to run another round of applauses for Daria. Thank you so much for introducing me. And I actually can speak for hours about some specific technical parts about TON, but we are limited in time, and I'm going to give you my Twitter at the end of the discussion. And if enough people will subscribe, at some point I will start doing Twitter Spaces just to talk more about technical stuff. So yeah, let me introduce myself. Even though Daria did a very good job introducing myself before. My name is Mark, and I work indeed in TON Foundation as a DevRel manager. And I'm very excited about this job. And I'm in TON for quite a few months, and I enjoy the technical part. I enjoy the chain itself. It's just a lot of amazing stuff that it's doing. And let me share my screen. So I would jump straight to just want to confirm if you guys see my screen. Yeah, I guess you see it, right?
Yep, we see
it. Awesome. Yeah, so I would say the topic of the session is mostly like quick start programming, but the thing about TON is like it's important to understand a few things that are like special about TON before you ever jump into the programming. So like what is TON? It's not like most of the coins you will meet, it's like a coin, but TON is rather network. Of course there's TON coin inside of it, and TON coin is kind of like a neural system of the network, so it's like a blood of the network that is going into all the services. But you should treat TON like it's supposed to be treated, like the open network, like TON. That's what it stands for, you know. So it's important to keep in mind that like it has blockchain as a kind of like the single source of truth in the network, and but there's also much more services like TON storage, TON proxy, TON DNS, TON payments. So you should not just focus on it as just like a coin, you know. So it's not just smart contracts that are just programmable money, you know. So I used to say that like Bitcoin was first online cash, like first online money, true online money that we got, and then Ethereum was kind of like programmable money. So once you get a smart contract, you can actually program the way money behave, you know. And Tone is rather a programmable network that is driven by programmable money. Because, yeah, indeed, we do have the smart contracts that are running the logic, like when certain funds actually entering the contract. But to have a better understanding, you should actually treat it like a network. So important things to know is that Tone smart contract is running as an actor model. So it's like the most simple way to explain it, it would be that your contract can do like it works one direction, so one direction at a time. So it's either is sending a message or it is handling a message that is coming. So you cannot do both like in the same time. So it's an important thing to keep in mind. And TVM itself is a quite a unique thing that is very different from EVM, but you will have to learn a lot of stuff that is like what TVM is capable of, because in your smart contract you're going to use certain logic that is kind of that has to be supported by the virtual machine, and you will need to understand what like how it's working. So you will hear the term TVM quite a lot of times. And there's another special thing about Tone is that it supports external messaging. It means like normally the messages that are like inside of network, they're between contracts, so they're coming with money. So if there's a message, it's coming with money, so you know what to do with the money, right? So in Tone, we support like a smart contract supports an external messaging. So you can trigger certain logic from outside of the network, from outside of the blockchain. So your smart contract can define what should be done when someone is trying to interact with my smart contract from outside. Like it doesn't have to, but it's like it's capable of doing that. And FunC, the sweet part. I used to joke that it's a big lie in Tone, this word fun, because FunC is definitely not fun, but it's very interesting. It's very interesting. So FunC is the language that is actually compiling into into the fifth, then into bytecode. But anyways, we'll talk about this a bit later. But this is language we write the most while programming smart contracts. And important thing is that Tone is very, very much universal. So it's like, you know, there are some new languages like Tact, but FunC itself, it's so much universal that, for example, it allows to change the code. So it's something crazy for developers these days. How can you change the code of a smart contract? Like, impossible. And but we do allow this, and this is logic that like you can change the code of smart contract if the smart contract was programmed in a way that it can be changed. It's not like you can change any code of any smart contract, but rather you can put this logic inside. And there's much more things that are actually just giving you much better life while you're programming, giving a lot of flexibility. Important thing to know about Tone is cells. This is the first thing that I wish I would learn on day one when I just came to Tone. So cell is an important thing. It's like this is a layout of the memory. So everything you're going to do is going to be interacting with memory, right? So cell is kind of like one piece of the layout of the memory, and it's important to understand this concept that you're having 1023 bits, and then your cell can actually reference to 4 other cells. So it like at the end of the day, you like all your memory is going to look like something like this tree. So you have certain data in the first 1023 bits, and then you can reference to other cells, and this way you can store whatever you want on chain on the smart contract. And you will have to understand how like whatever you do with memory is going to be either reading from the memory or writing into memory. So you will need to understand this concept that you are the owner of your of this memory that in your smart contract. So you are setting up what is written there, and only your contract knows how to read whatever is written in the memory. So it's just a very important concept that you will get back to all the time. And I just wanted to kind of like give you a brief introduction to what it is. So there's a few data types. I'm going to share this presentation. I'm not going to dig deep into every of data types because I really want us to actually have some time to jump into the code, jump into certain like logics that like how to actually quick start programming. So, but important to note one more time is that whatever you're going to program in smart contract is going to be either internal message or external message. So internal message, like we already talked about external messages. Like external messages, something that you are actually like you're triggering some logic on the contract, but you're triggering not from the chain. It's not like you send some money, which is internal message. So external message is like you triggers from outside, and internal message is something that you are actually like you're sending money with it. So your money to your contract are coming with internal messages. And most of the logic you will write are going to be about handling internal messages from other contract. So a very good question is how Tone is different from like TVM is different from EVM, right? Like all the Ethereum friendly chains and logic and contracts. So first, yeah, the contracts are only interacting by sending messages to each other, but the calls between smart contract, these messages, they're asynchronous. So it's not like in one run, you cannot check some data from another contract and then change the state of of your contract. So you're doing some logic and you send some request to other contract, and you will just hope that at one point the answer will come. So this is asynchronous, and this differs from EVM. And you can actually have get methods, but getter methods are only available off-chain. So your contract can have a getter method, but this is the primary way to read data that is like inside of the memory of the contract, like from off-chain. So you can run this getter method and get this data. Another one is that contracts has to pay rent. And this is important because there's 5 cycles of the contract running. And important thing is that you like balance management is something you will have to do, because like you will have to manage the balance of your contract so your contract doesn't run out of money, because like it has to have the balance to stay on chain. Otherwise, it will probably end up on the archive nodes. So I'm heading like forward. Important thing, like yeah, I will switch the Jetons architecture, but important thing I wanted to outline for you is the deploy process. So what happens when you want to deploy the contract? So it's very cool that in Tron, the address of the contract is deterministic or determined. You can know the address before you even deploy the contract, because the address is actually like the hash from cell with initial state, like initial data, and then the actual code of the contract. So you know the initial data, you know the code, so you know that this code will be run against the initial parameters that this contract will have. And then like this is something that is unique for every contract. And then you get a hash from it, and this is your contract address. And how do you deploy it? You just send a message to this contract address that doesn't even exist yet on the network. So you send a message with this initial state and code. And once you send it on this address that is predetermined, you actually deploy it. So like the moment this message with the code, with the initial data, is hitting the TVM, and like it sees that it's not yet deployed, but the address, like you send it to this address and you understand that, okay, this is something to be deployed, the TVM is going to deploy it and you will have your contract deployed. All right, so let me jump into the development lifecycle, because it's very important. Like, I mean, it's quite simple though, but I just wanted to overview it, that like you can compile the contract, you can test it, and you can deploy it, and it will be on chain, and other contracts will interact with it. So like for the compilation, you have a package called FunC. So it's available in Tone community. And this is a long story about like it's compiling into Fifth, and then Fifth is compiling into bytecode, but like you don't have to dig into that. Just this is the library that is used to compile stuff on Ton and for FunC. And you can run tests. So like Sandbox is a library that enables you to locally emulate the whole work of blockchain. So you can emulate any smart contract, you can send messages, you can emulate the interaction between them, you can run get methods, in everything local. So it's not yet on chain, but you can interact with it just like it would be on chain. And of course, deploy. So as I said, deploy is like sending a message to a certain address. So message, like you're sending messages just by sending money to each other, right? So deploying smart contract is as simple as sending a small amount of money, or like the amount you want, to a certain address. So you will need a wallet, just a regular wallet, to just send this transaction that is going to have initial state and the code inside of it. So another cool thing that I would really advise to install is the VS Code FunC extension. So you can actually have the highlights the best way possible. And like I was showing you, the compile, test, and deploy, very, very cool thing that was created by our team, Ton Tech, is you can just do npm create Ton. So you don't need to deal with all these libraries. You can just go ahead and just use it in your command line. We're going to exactly do this same thing like very soon. Yeah, so I'm going to switch to my, I hope my screen is being seen. Yeah. So I'm going, oh, I can hear myself twice now. Yeah, so I'm going to open the Blueprint GitHub repository. It's a very cool place to actually check about like how to Quickstart. And yeah, just like it says here, you can just do npm create Ton, and we'll do it, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens once you do it. Yes. So project name, we'll call BVF Hackathon. We will say sample contract. So you get like a step-by-step guide, you know. And we want a simple counter contract on FunC. As you can see, also you can find it on tag. But we want a simple counter contract. So we could do empty contract, but with a counter contract, we will actually get a bit of a logic to play with, you know. So we wait until it will generate all the files. It will install dependencies. Let's wait a second. Yeah, so already it installed all the dependencies, and it's hinting me what to do with it further. So I would need to actually first enter it if I want to run any other commands. And I could do npm blueprint build. I could do blueprint test. I could do blueprint run. So let's see what we have here. So we have folder contracts, okay, models, scripts. This is something for like utility scripts. We have tests, how to test the contract, and we have wrappers. So we'll just quickly run through all the folders. But so once you do the same thing, once you actually clone this repository, you know what how to interact with with the contents of it. So basically, the folder contracts has a contract, right? So here, like the most important function is the receive internal. So basically, we have certain functions here. I will collapse everything to have a bigger overview. So we are actually importing the main library, like stdlib. You can see all the commands, how they are like actually translated into the assembly code. So you importing it, and then important thing is to read the memory. So like contracts has some kind of a local storage. So you have this function load data that is actually using this function called get data. So get data is getting a cell. Like I was telling you, cells is like a layout of memory. It's like a piece of memory. So you take like function get data actually returns you a cell, and you start to parse this cell. So like it was like begin parse, right? So what do you mean by parsing? You actually start to read out stuff from it. So you read out the ID, like you read the integer, right? So whatever data is written in there, however you call the variables, you actually read them out, and then you can same way you can actually write it back. So as you can see here, we store those values globally. So you can store uint. You have to always put it back in the same. If you want to change something, of course, you have to put it back in the same direction, because your code is going to read it in the same order. I mean, so as you can see, we first put the transaction ID and the counter. So same, we have to put it in the same order, and we have to set how many bits is going to be used to store this part of data, because that's the only way to actually predict which parts are where. So now we have receive internal contract, the receive internal function. So receive internal and receive external, these are function like these are not system functions. This is something that we've created, but receive internal is like kind of a system function, that something that you actually have to have either receive internal or receive external, because your contract wouldn't exist without it, you know? So basically, this is your contract. We're not going to dig into FunC like too deep, because we don't have much time today. But just like I said, if you subscribe me on Twitter, maybe I will just do much more spaces to explain more stuff about FunC itself. So basically, once you have your logic, like what do you do? How do you know it works? You don't want to deploy it every time. So you actually want to run, like you have to write a test that is going to just interact, like it's going to emulate the contract, it's going to interact with the contract in a certain way. So here, that's why we have here a sample contract, spec.ts. So let me just try and do npx blueprint test. Yeah, so it's basically doing the, it's running all the tests that are written here, and hopefully, yeah, you see they finish properly. So let's see how it works. So you basically, before all the actions, you have to compile. So you compile the contracts, and you save it into a cell. So everything you will store is stored in cells. So code is stored in cell. So it's like, it's up to you how many cells are used, but it always starts with one cell. So you have to create a like instance of blockchain. You have to create an instance of sample contract. And now, before each test, you actually are going to initiate the blockchain. You're going to open a contract. So you create from config means you are actually setting the initial data that I was talking about, and you're setting the code. So just like I said, every like contract has like the address is actually like derived from initial data that is now selected and the code. So and then we go to deployer. So deployer actually means like we have like treasury. So it's a wallet. So you're going to kind of simulate the wallet on your local blockchain, and that's why you call it deployer, because it's going to be deploying the contract. And you actually do the like send deploy message. So you create a deploy message like from deployer to the contract, and you would expect to see the like just like there is a awesome test utils from FunC community that is actually giving you your like extending jest, so you could be able to expect the contract to have transactions. So the contract transactions, and you have the capability of testing it like from where to where this transaction was it a deployed transaction, was it successful, etc. So this is just before all the tests, and then we actually start to run certain like actual logic. So you do increase results. So you're actually sending a message you're sending a message to the contract, and you expect the the counter value to increase. So this is just a life cycle type. I mean, I'm explaining you life cycle. I'm not digging too deep into the logic of the contract itself for now, because you will clone this repository and you can play around, you can understand what's going on there. But my goal is to explain you what is it looking like, so you wouldn't get too stuck while you're trying it. So, but the important thing is wrappers. Why do we have wrappers? So the contract that we the instance of contract that we do, it actually needs to be we need to be able to interact with it, and it has to be an instance, a single instance of the contract, right? So we're creating a wrapper that is giving us certain functions. It's a wrapper. It's not a ton specific thing. So this is just a good practice of how to program, And in this example, you will see that these wrappers, they're actually easy, they are doing the programming much more easy, and you can actually use these functions to interact with the contract. You can just use function send increase, and here you're actually this function is composing the message that is going to be sent. So you see for example, internal provider, this is someone who's sending the message. So internal is the internal message, and the value is the amount of money you want to send with it. And send mode, there's a number of send modes that you can read more about. We use the one that we pay the gas separately from the value of the message. But then, important thing, you have to compose the body of the message, and you compose the body of the message by composing a cell. So you actually do begin cell, then you put some integer, you put another integer, another one, and you end cell. And once you have this cell, you actually send the message, and you your contract. Let's check. So you say send increase. So you put the integer 32 bits, then another integer 64 bits, and then the three integers basically, right? So let's go to the contract and see that. So receive internal, this is something that is going to handle this message. So we don't want empty messages. We read the data. Here we just read the flags that we don't want the bounced messages. That the bounced message is something that your contract sent it somewhere, but the recipient couldn't handle it, so it was bounced back. So you don't want to handle it here. You only want those who on purpose came to interact with your contract. So you load data, and here you start to read the in-message body, because here in the receive internal, the system function, you actually get certain parameters into it just by default. So here you have the in-message body, and you start reading stuff from it. So first you read the OP operation code. So let's open the wrapper as well. So you actually have operation code. It's just it's a number, right? So you read the integer, then you see QAD. QAD is just a parameter to track the chain of transactions. It's just a best practice. You don't have to put it there into the memory, into the message, but it's a good practice to do it like this. And then you're checking if this command is actually increase. So how do you know this op increase? It's here you define what it should be like, right? And if this command is actually increase it, then you continue reading from the memory, and you ask for how much should I increase it, and increase by, you read this parameter, and then you actually increase the counter and you save data. So this is just the wrappers are just to create an instance of a contract, so you would be easily able to interact with it. So I think this would be that was a crash course, I'm really sorry if I was too fast and too, maybe some details I didn't cover too much, but I wanted to give you a broad overview with the most important things that I think you should actually know if you will start programming. But I think this is the fastest way to get your hands on code, So you might have questions. I would be happy to answer them, but I think that's it that I have for you today. Sorry for having so much packed information, but I hope that you will actually process it very soon, and you will actually get the idea of how to get started with programming. So I think yeah, we can proceed to questions if someone has, but this is it from my side from the presentation part.
Thank you, Mark, for interesting lecture. And now we are waiting.
Oh, I suppose that there is some problems with an internet connections from Daria's side. So, yeah, please, the audience, if you have any questions, you can just raise your hand. I will give you an opportunity just to ask in the voice. If there is some volunteer, please let us know that you want to ask some questions, and I will just take 2 minutes to look through all of the comments in our chat. Maybe we have something from the written form. So please, yeah. Oops. Oh, yeah. Okay, good. By the way, I think wrap up to the FunC development. Oh, yeah, I see the first guy who wants to ask a question, please. Yep. Now you can speak. We're listening to you.
Hi, everyone. Basically, I have the question a bit about the opcodes. So it said that it was increased and you defined it yourself, but also there was a number. Yes. How do we decide what is this number? Do we look this up for the JVM opcodes? Can you just tell us a bit more about the JVM opcodes, please?
Yeah, so there was a recent big update on TVM. Actually, like there was a function introduced, like load opcode, I think. But anyways, like if we're talking about the actual opcodes, they are completely up to you, because the opcode is all about your logic of your contract. So you can call it whatever. You can do it like the increase is like equal to 1. So you basically just check it, like you just load the first 32 bits, and you say, if it's 1, then you do this. If it's 2, then it's decrease, and like it's totally up to you, 100%. So it's like you in control of the
management yourself.
Yeah, you can define it yourself. It's completely up to you.
Thanks. It was a little bit confusing. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the question. I think that someone else raised the hand while we were listening for the first question. Yeah, please, just a second. I will let you speak. Yeah, please. Welcome. Ankit, you can ask a question.
Hi, everyone. My question is for a person who is new to Ton programming and FunC programming. What would be the first resource that you would recommend to learn from? Is it the documentation? Is it some video course? So, like, what will be the first resource that you would recommend for learning FunC and Ton programming?
Yeah, I would say it's great to attend sessions like this when someone just tells you the brief explanation. But I think like the next step that I would recommend for you to do now, it would be to start with Blueprint. Just do npm create Ton, and you should just look at the code, compile it, deploy it, see how it just works with the ready-made code. And then you just look at the code and you read into documentation. So ton.org, if there's a link to documentation, you should actually try to kind of work, like reverse engineer whatever's already written, like, because the examples of code are very simple. So you can very simply read the code, and you can search in the documentation to better explain you what exactly is happening in the code, you know? And in my opinion, this is the most practical way to actually get started and actually get results.
Cool. So you mentioned Blueprint, start with Blueprint. So is it mentioned in the Ton documentation, or like where do I learn Blueprint from?
Yeah, Ton documentation is quite good, and we're working hard on it. So that's the place you should you should actually be checking quite often. And the dev chats, something is very good. Like dev chats are very good. You can ask your questions anytime.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, what is more, we will try to provide you after this session with all the essential links, so you will be able to click just and oversee what's going on in the blueprint. So no worries, we will provide you with as many resources as we can.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for your question. Anybody else? Yep, I see that has just 1 second. I will let you speak, please. Yep. The person with OX leaks, I think that now you're allowed to speak and ask the question. Yeah, I hear you. Please.
Hello, everyone. My question is with regards if somebody wants to build a voucher which doubles up as an NFT. So the premise is really simple. How would one, or what documentation would one go to if they want to create such a a voucher? And the premise of the voucher is very simple. When somebody would use fiat to purchase this voucher, but the voucher is on the Ton blockchain and can be and maybe it would be embedded with let's say some tons, and those tons can be redeemed. I know that Ethereum has something like this under the EIP. I think it is 715. I just wanted to know if Ton has something similar.
Yeah, so we don't have a certain standard for vouchers for like claimable things, and it's actually if you are into this, I would even you can get a reward. You can go to Ton Footsteps and actually come up with the idea to create standard like that. And so you could create a TEP for this, but we don't have it at the moment. So you would have to either create a certain like custom smart contract, or you could go ahead and just use the NFTs in a certain way, like combination of NFTs and like just simple contract. So yeah, at the moment we don't have this as a standard, but I understand what you're talking about. So you would have to do it custom way.
Okay, thank you very much. But before I go, just wanted to ask you did mention Footstep. This is the first time I'm hearing about this.
Yeah, so basically Ton Footsteps, this is like an initiative. You can just Google it, Ton Footsteps, or you can go to our GitHub, like Ton Society GitHub. So this is an initiative where you could, for example, just come there and create an issue on GitHub, and you could explain that, look, guys, there's this, like, there's no certain standard. For example, I want to develop this standard, and I would appreciate a like reward of like 1,000 ton, for example, and you would be granted this 1,000 ton. Like first, you would get a confirmation that like you are doing it, and once it's done, you actually deliver it, you report it, and you get this reward. So this is like initiative for people to actually contribute inside of the community. And if you're into topics like that, I think it's a good idea for you to go try it.
Sure, I will join that. And thank you for your response.
Yeah, you're welcome. Everyone is welcome. So I guess there's a few more people who want to ask questions, right? So let's say Santosh. I'm not sure if I can actually allow someone to speak. Huh.
Hey Mark, can you touch base on what a getters are? And coming from EVM background, we have something called events and emits. So are there any equivalents in Ton? And if not, how to tackle that?
For events?
Yeah.
Well, it's no. You wouldn't ever need to do it, because you cannot trigger anything on different contract rather than sending a message to it. That's why the concept of events is just the message is the event, you know. So you would have to send some money with some data to interact with other contract, and this is it cannot be atomic. You cannot do it like once you do it, you'll just hope for the answer. So the answer can come in different block even.
So the reason being that when we think about oracles, and oracles will be very much dependent upon reading on-chain data every time. So that's the reason being synchronous and able to read and write to the contract. So how do one go about that?
Well, sorry, I didn't understand the question, but you were talking about oracles. So yeah, if you want your contract to be aware about some data in different contract, then you would need to count on oracles. That's for sure. So you would need a certain oracle to actually go and check this data. Then you would need to consensus around, like, so you would need to, you don't want it to be centralized, right? You want the chain to be sure that, like, this is exactly the data that was present on other contracts. So this is a more complex way. Like the other way would be just write your logic of the contract in a way that your contract is actually sending a message to different contract asking the data, and then it's handling the response. So you'll always, if you're doing it as a request, you send a message, and then you actually write a logic that is handling the response. So you know what is going to be the structure of response, and you write like, if operation code, like first 32 bits, if it's equal to the response type, then you do some logic.
Awesome, sir. I think that clears most of my queries. And one more question: are there any oracles available right now?
There is one that is like, it's decentralized, but it's very it's very early stage, but it's already public. You can check it. It's called TonLink. You can check it. Then there is one more that is going to be developing soon, but it's going to be much more advanced, but it's not yet ready. So, but there is no like a common. There is no common oracle that is everyone using.
Awesome, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next speaker, please, Bot Mother. You can ask a question. You just have to turn on your mic to ask the question.
I like your nick, Bot Mother.
Yeah, great.
Hi, Marco. So my
Hi.
question is, in the Ton ecosystem right now, is there a way for us to basically accept USDT on TRC20 into Ton?
Well, as far as I know, there's like official bridge where you could bridge this token, but if you're talking about like on the contract level, there's no possibility to actually interact with TRC token, because I mean you would have to like it would have to be bridged, and then it would be your contract interacting with the token.
Right. And do you have any links for these bridges that you mentioned? That I can
Well,
look up
I think it's bridge.ton.org. That's the official bridge.
Okay, cool. Thanks for answering my question.
Thank you for the question. I think that we are ready to listen to the last question, and to cut a long story short, we will finish our workshop for today. Anyone want to ask the last question? Nope. Yeah, it seems to me that everyone has already asked all of the questions. Mark, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining us today, and for this really cool introduction to the FunC. We really appreciate it. All of the participants, I want to say that please ask your questions in the chat. We can continue some discussions there, and we will be happy to redirect all of the questions connected to FunC to our mentor, Mark. Please give more applauses, send stickers to the chat, I don't know, wherever you want to. Somehow you can just send some gratitudes to Mark. Mark, thank you very much one more time.
Oh, you're welcome, Lisa. Especially you're always welcome, and our awesome auditory. I enjoy what I'm doing this, so I'm happy you guys found it useful.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, all of the listeners. We hope that this workshop was quite useful for you. No worries if someone didn't have a chance to join. We will send this records to the chat as far as we finish this, like in a day or maybe sooner. Thank you one more time. Have a good day. Thank you, Daria, for this amazing workshop. Thank you for the organization. We hope that next time your connection will be cool. So we are waiting for you to see one more time. Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.